Welcome back. Today the theme is graveyard, so I think I'm going to try and just make a big graveyard with a bunch of graves. To start that, let's make a single grave. So normally we delete the default cube, but because graves have at least a section that's roughly cubic, we can start with that. What I mean by that is if we hit S and Y, we can kind of get the bottom shape of a gravestone, something like this. And then of course we want that curved top. So we can take this surface by going into edit mode, hitting 3 to change to edge select, and selecting this top face. Then we can hit extrude. It's already in the Z direction, which you can see by the blue line, and then we hold control and go up one click basically. Okay. Then we want to go hit 2 to move into edge select mode, and we want to select these two top edges. And the reason why we're selecting them is so that we can create a curved surface. And so to do that, we're going to hit Control B. And Control B, as you can see, kind of adds this bevel. Initially, it probably won't look like this for you. It would probably look something like that. But as you can see, if you click this little bevel menu that opens right after you hit the bevel and change segments to 16 or something, doesn't have to be exactly 16, then that should help with you. Also, clamp overlaps could be useful. If you don't clamp overlaps, you can get this kind of over-fitting clipping type thing, which you don't want. So setting that on can be helpful. Okay, now we have one basic gravestone. And we're going to want to make a lot more. But first, let's create the plane onto which all the gravestones are going to be. So to do that, we're going to go back into object mode. Actually, before we make that plane, let's rename our cube. And we can name this gravestone. Okay. Next, we want to hit Shift A to create a new object, and that object's going to be a plane. And this plane is going to be pretty big because it's an entire, we want an entire graveyard. So hit S, and we're just going to keep moving, keep getting bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And maybe we'll hold control as we do this, doesn't really matter, but that seems roughly good to me. We can always come back and change it later. Okay, now you can see that our gravestone is a little bit underneath the ground. And eventually we're going to want to fix that, but for now, this is actually okay. And the reason for that is we're going to want to create grass at some point. And when we create that grass, we're not going to want the grass to go through the portions of the plane where a grave is. And so we're going to use some modifiers to make that happen. Let's begin first by adding a subdivision surface modifier to this big plane that we just made. Basically, that's going to make the mesh more refined. So subdivision surface, you can see that if we're in edit mode, we really just have 4 vertices, but it can make it seem like there's a bunch more. We don't want it to be circular, so I'm going to change it from Catmull Clark to simple, and then we're going to up this level viewport. You can see every time you up it. Oh, is there 2 levels of this plane? Why is it? I'm getting this weird like clipping effect. Let me see something. No, okay. I'm not quite sure why that happens. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to up this to 6 and this to 6. I think this should be fine. I'm not quite sure why that clipping's happening, but I think it will be okay. And if it's not, we'll figure it out then. Okay. So we have now a more refined mesh. So let's go back to object mode by hitting tab and then click on our gravestone. And we're going to want to move our gravestone to kind of start the pattern of gravestone. So if you ever go to a graveyard, they're kind of usually positioned in a sort of like grid pattern. So you'll see rows and columns of graves. So we want to do something like that. So we're going to hit G, Y, and move our gravestone up. We can move it up to maybe here. And now let's move it over to the corner, so G and X. And maybe we won't move it all the way over, we'll move it somewhere here. I'm thinking of adding some trees at some point, so let's just start with this. Now the modifier we want to use is an array modifier. So you can add modifier, type ARR array. And what this will do is it'll create the same instance of this. It'll create a copy of the gravestone we've already created, but offset from the original gravestone in a certain direction. So right now, it's offsetting in the positive x direction. Instead of the positive x direction, we probably want the negative x direction. Oops, what happened there? Let's go back to here. We're going to change this from 1 to -1. And then we want some offset. So right now they're right next to each other. So we're going to click on constant offset and click this little triangle right next to it to change that. And so right now they're 1 meter apart. We're going to want that to be more. We can just play around with this number until we find something that looks good. Why is it doing that? Okay, I think maybe something like that will work. Maybe we did want this to be 1. Okay, let's play around with this a bit more. I do think it's -1. But for whatever reason, the offset is not, it seems to be from a weird position. Let's increase the count just so we have an idea of where the subsequent ones are going to come from. So we want it to be in the other direction. But it seems like regardless if I choose... this is weird. Regardless if I choose -1 or 1 for x, it does that. What if we change this to 0 and then this to like -3? Ah, okay, there we go. That's what I wanted. Okay. Oops, -5 maybe. So we want them to be pretty spaced out. I'm going to say like -8 or so. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, so now we have kind of one set of our array. I think I'm going to want trees kind of on the left side and then the right side, and then more arrays of these graves. So what we'll do first is we will make another array modifier for this object. So right now we've created an array from 1 grave to 5 graves, and now we're going to want to create an array that takes all of these 5 graves and kind of copies them down in this green y direction, so coming towards the bottom of this plane. So we're going to create another array modifier, and importantly, this array modifier is going to appear below the top one. I guess it's not as important. It should work either way, but just keep that in mind. So instead of relative offset, we're going to hit constant offset, and that constant offset is going to be, instead of in the x direction, in the y direction. I think this should be the negative y direction. Let's hit -10 just to see what that would be like. Increase the count. Okay. Why is that so close? Maybe let's go like -16. Is it +16 instead? Am I messing that up? What is happening? For whatever reason, it's like moved over our array. Oh, did I mess with this? What happened here? Let's undo a couple times until we get back to where we were. I think that was this one. Okay, yeah, let's go to like -10 or so. Okay, I think I was clicking on this top array instead of this bottom array, so I think that's what was happening. And so now if we go like -20 here, or +20 maybe. Yeah, okay, this is what we want. So you can see that now it's creating the second set of these 5 gravestones, but below it. And maybe instead of 20, we'll change it to like 50 or so. We want them to be pretty separated. Remember, there's going to be in theory, there's a grave underneath all of these. Okay, and instead of the count being 2, we want the count being basically enough to fill up the entire plane. So we'll just keep increasing this until we get something that looks good. I think that looks pretty good. Okay, now we want to copy this entire 5 by whatever grid over twice. Once for the middle and then once for the right. And so to do that, again, we'll just create another array modifier. And this one, it is important that it's on the bottom because it's basically saying we've copied x, we've copied in the x direction, then we've copied in the y direction, and now we're copying that entire array again in the x direction. These top 2 can be in either order, but this bottom one does have to be below. Okay. Right now we have relative offset. I think we want to change that to constant offset in the x direction. Maybe let's set it to -20. No, more than that, -50. More than that, -75. Okay, something like that. We basically want, I think, the middle grave to be aligned with the green line. And so I'm just going to play around with this number until we get something that looks roughly good. It doesn't have to be perfect. Okay, maybe like negative 70, is that? Negative 71. Okay, I think that looks close enough. And then we're going to change this count from 2 to 3. So now we have these 3 kind of arrays of gravestones. Now that we have those gravestones, I want to add in some trees that are going to go in between the gravestones. And so to do that, we've already created some graves. Actually, before we do that, sorry, we want to select the plane. And this is what I was talking about before with wanting to make sure that the grass we eventually create doesn't interfere with these gravestones. We're going to create a second modifier, and this modifier is going to be a Boolean. That Boolean, we want the difference between this plane, and then we can choose the object to be this array of gravestones. Come on. I think we can just go like here and select that instead. Gravestone. Okay. And now I think what you can see if you kind of look at this is that I don't know why it's not doing it for all the gravestones. That's a bit concerning. Is it? Okay, there we go. If we change it from exact to float, I don't know exactly why that fixed it, but it did seem to. You can see we now have all of these kind of orange squares, and all that orange square is saying is that at each point where the gravestone intersects the plane of the graveyard, we are deleting that rectangle from the mesh of the graveyard. So in the future, when we create a particle system that's going to have grass, that grass will no longer be able to select this area to populate. It's only going to be able to select the area that hasn't been cut out. So if we go to like X-ray mode, I think you should be able to see we've created kind of holes within this giant mesh. Okay, now that we've done that, let's go back to object mode. Let's go back to our material preview mode, zoom out, and we're going to select our array of gravestones. So we can come up here and click that. And now we want to move them up. So remember before we were doing this Boolean modifier to make sure that these squares were not gone. Actually, we need to accept that modifier first, I believe. Oops, sorry about that. We need to accept this Boolean modifier, so let's hit apply. I think. Yep. Let's make sure that worked like I thought it did. Yeah, there's okay, so we still have all these holes. The mesh is a bit weird, but I think that should be okay. Let's come here, go back to our gravestone, look from the side, and now we're going to want to move all these gravestones up so we can zoom in. So you can't see the plane right now, but we know that the plane was created on this red line, basically. And so when we move it up, we want to move it up so that the bottom of the gravestone is right on that line. So we hit G, Z, and then as we hold Control, it's basically going to click to each of these small gray lines that you see. And so if we just go up one click, we can be on that red line. And that should be good. Now if we scroll up, we can see all the gravestones are on top of the plane. But if we go to wireframe mode, we still have those holes underneath the gravestone. I think we do at least. Yeah, no, we do. The reason you see this clipping right here is because there's these two planes, the plane of the bottom of the grave and the plane of the hole we created on the gravestone plane, are both in the exact same place. And so you see that there's like these black lines that intersect with the orange lines, but that's actually a good sign. So at least I think it is. Let's take, okay, we now have our general array, and now we want to import some trees. So in past videos, I made some trees, so I'm going to try and import those. I believe I save them as object files. Let's go to our 20-minute model, and it's green tree. So import both the material and object file. I held shift when I did that. Okay, and now you can see we have our tree. The tree comes with its own plane, and so we don't want that plane. To make sure we can get rid of it, right now everything within that tree model is selected, so let's hit G and X to move it over to the side so we can kind of mess with it and do everything we need to do before we kind of merge it with this mesh. So now that we're in object mode, we can select just the plane, and we're going to hit X and delete that object. And then we're going to go into wireframe mode and select everything that's within the tree. Right click, is it J? I want to join all of these basically into a yeah, here we go. Control J is what we want to do, and that joins them all into a single object up here, and we can call that tree. Ooh, I think I have caps lock on. Tree. There we go. Okay, and while we're at that, let's change the name of this plane to graveyard. Okay, sweet. So now we have our tree, and so what we want to do is select this tree, and we're going to move it back, and basically create another array that fills in these rows or columns that the graves don't occupy. So we're going to hit G and X, kind of move it over towards, so it's somewhere here, and maybe we want to make it slightly bigger. I don't know what the scale of gravestones is compared to trees, but I imagine the tree is more than about double, so size it up. Ooh, not like that. Just select the tree, hit S, and you can see it sizing up. I think something like this should be good. And you can see that because we have this little yellow dot on the plane of the grave, that when we hit S, it sizes up kind of away from that point. But if that yellow dot was somewhere else, you would have to make sure that wherever you're sizing up from, or after you change the size, that the bottom of the tree aligns with the plane of the graveyard. Okay, let's now move it up in the Y direction, so GY, and we'll put it over here somewhere. And maybe we want to make it like 2 layers of trees for each of these, or at least for this section. So let's hit G, X, move it over here, try and get it kind of like there, I think should be good. Let's now create an array modifier, or let me see. Yeah, let's create let's shift duplicate, move this in the X direction towards wherever we want the second location of our tree to be. We're going to rotate this tree. So right now you can kind of see they're in exactly the same orientation, but I think to kind of add to the visual appeal, we can rotate them so that they're slightly offset. So RZ, maybe I'll change this one so it's like at this angle, and I can change this one so it's at that angle. Actually, wait, those are the same. So change it to it's like that angle. Okay. So now we have both of these, and let's join those so that they're now one. We can call this. Actually, wait. Before we do that, sorry. We want this as 2 separate ones. The thickness of this left column that we want to fill with trees is thicker than these middle sections, and so we're going to want to create arrays for each of those. But for the first array, it's only going to be 2 trees. I think for this one, we probably want it to be 3 trees. So let's shift D for that, G, X, move them over to here. And we're going to want to select this tree, G, X, move it over to here. And we'll create one more of these trees, try and place it roughly in the center. Oops, X. Doesn't have to be perfect. And then R, Z, and we'll make this one flat, or flat with respect to the XY grid that you see underneath. Okay, so now we have these 2 trees, which we want to join. So Control J to join them, and we can call this double tree. And then we want these 3. So all I'm doing is selecting one, and then while holding Shift, clicking on the other 2. So now we have all 3 of these trees selected, and we'll hit Control J to join those as well. Okay, sweet. Now we want to basically do the array stuff that we've been doing before. So let's add a modifier to the triple tree. Let's call it triple tree first. Add a modifier. Let's make it an array modifier. And we're going to want a constant offset in the Y direction. Maybe let's go -5 or so. Whoa, why is it doing that? Hello? Oh, well, we want this to be 0. Oh. But why is Y down for this? That's very interesting. I think this is fine. Maybe it's because of the It must be because of the orientation of the trees. Okay, so I'm not exactly sure why this is happening, but the constant offset needs both x and z directions to move in the y direction. Bit interesting. But now that we have that, we can increase our count to fill up to the bottom here. So we'll just go like this and just spam click until we get something that we like. And I like that, so let's keep it. Okay. Now we want to create a second array to basically copy this array over to this location. And we could do that by just duplicating the triple tree, but I think the array modifier is nice. Because then if we want to move everything, we can kind of move both of them at once. Okay, so now we see like what is happening here. It's moved all the way up there, but I think that's just because we want this constant offset, and the constant offset in theory should be in the x direction, but I think maybe it's not going to be in the x direction. Let me just see what happens if I do that. Yeah, well, maybe it's got to be partially in the x direction, I think. So it seems like x is moving it like this diagonal, and so maybe z then, if we put it 50 here, yeah, okay, so we just want x, the negative x value and the positive z value to be the same, and apparently I guess that makes it a y. I'm really not sure why that's happening. If any Blender experts ever watch this video, let me know. The version of Blender I'm using is 4.5.2, so I don't know if that's helpful at all, but okay. Let's now adjust these, basically just so that we can get it in a good place, I think. So if negative 30 and 30, that is pretty close actually to what we want. I think we want it maybe slightly shifted over to the left. You see this right tree is maybe slightly closer to this tombstone than the left tree is to this tombstone. So we can change this to maybe like negative 28. And this is positive 28. That might actually be too much. Yeah, that's too much. Okay, let's change it to 29 maybe. And this to negative 29. Okay, now this is about 5 squares away, and this is about 3 squares away. Okay, so we maybe let's maybe 0.5. There's probably a better way of doing this, but okay, now it looks like, yeah, this is 4 squares away on the left and roughly 4 squares away on the right. It's not exactly precise, but I think it looks pretty good. Sweet. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing with our double tree. So we go over to our double tree, create an array modifier. Instead of relative offset, we want constant offset. And again, I think we need positive x and positive z for this. We want to basically do the exact same one that we did on the triple tree. So we can check what values we did on the triple tree, which is negative 5, negative 5. So let's try that on the double tree and see if that works. Negative 5, negative 5. Yeah, and it does. Sweet. And then likewise, the count should be exactly the same. So triple tree had 18, so this can also have 18. Okay. Now this part won't be copied from triple tree. We want to basically make the second array that goes all the way over to this side. So let's create that second array. And right now it's all sorts of messed up. We do know that in order to get it moving in this positive x direction, that we can kind of take from the triple tree. We know that we had to have negative x and positive z being the same value. So if we go to double tree, again, we know negative x, positive z. So if we go here, maybe we'll go to negative 50 and positive 50. Okay, and we want more than that, so let's go negative 75, positive 75, and even more than that, maybe negative 80, positive 80. We're kind of just incrementing slowly until we get something that looks good, maybe a bit more than that. Negative 85. Oop, I don't know what happened there. Negative 85 and 85. Okay, so now I think we might want to make some more adjustments, but let's just take a look over here to see the offset from the side of the tree to this. So this is about 1, 2, 3, 4, a little under 5 blocks. And over here we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A little over 5 blocks, so we just want to move it down ever so slightly. I'm going to set it to like maybe 84.5. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, maybe that'll work. Oh, that should be positive 84.5. Okay, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, a little under 5. And over here, 1, 2, 3, 4, a little under 5. Sweet. Okay, so now we have our trees, we have our graves. Now we want to add some grass. So we're going to come, so in object mode, we're going to hit Shift A, and we're going to set, we're going to create a, I guess let's create a cylinder. Yeah, let's create a cylinder, and let's move it out in the X direction just so we can isolate it. Oops, wait, before we, okay, sorry. When we create the cylinder, we want to adjust the number of vertices. 32 is far too many. I think we can honestly just set it to like 3, which is going to make it, I think, a triangle, but I don't think that's a bad thing. So GX, we want to keep it low poly, which is why I'm doing this. So we're making a piece of grass. So what we'll do here is we'll go to edit mode. We can size in along the, we basically want to size in every direction except Z. So we'll hit Shift Z. We can kind of do that. Something like this. Okay. Kind of like a blade of grass, something like this. Maybe we'll do it even just slightly more. Okay. And now we want to add some loop cuts. So we're going to hit 2 to go to edge select mode. We're going to select any one of these vertical edges. Hit Control R, and then scroll up. And I think maybe 3 of these is roughly good. So let's left click and then right click to keep them in place. And then we'll rotate it at each of those planes. So let's select this bottom loop, Alt click, and then rotate along the Z direction. Actually, wait, let's select all of the loop cuts. So Shift Alt click, click, rotate around the Z direction. In fact, we also want to choose this one. RZ. I don't think I selected the entire edge loop at the top here. Did I? No, I didn't. I was going to say. Okay, now we can do RZ. Rotate it a little bit. Now we want to unselect this bottom edge loop. So we'll hit Shift, Alt, click on that. RZ, just rotate it a bit more. Same thing, Shift, Alt, click this. RZ, twist it a bit more. And I'm pretty sure there's like a way we could do this with a screw modifier or something, but I'm just going to do it like this. RZ, or unselect that, and then RZ. So now we kind of have this twisted blade of grass. And maybe we want to make it slightly, oh, what just happened there? Maybe we want to make it slightly thinner at the top than it is at the bottom. So with this edge loop selected, you can hit S and kind of size it in like that. And then we'll select this edge loop and do the same thing, but size it in slightly less. And then go down here, same thing. RZ, oh, not RZ, what am I doing? Just S, drag it in a little less. And then one last time here, S, and like that. Okay, so now we have our blade of grass. Where did it go? There it is. Okay. So let's add some color. We can maybe, let's create a new color. And this is going to be for the grass. Let's make it like this kind of green or something. And maybe we can make each face of the green a slightly different green. Or each face of the grass a slightly different green. Let's rename this also to grass. Okay. So we have that. And now let's maybe select this. So let's choose 3 or hit 3 to go into face select mode. Select this face, this face, this face, and this face. And create a new material. This material is going to be maybe a darker green. Something like that. Sign. And then, so right now we have the darker green here, and then the lighter green here and here. Maybe let's take this green and make it a lighter green, even lighter than that one. So create a new one, new material, select this green to be maybe like a greenish yellow, something like this, and hit assign. Okay, so now we have 3 different shades of green. And what are we going to do with this? We're going to create a particle filter on the map. So first, what we'll do is we need to add some texture or some color to the uncolored parts that we created before. So our plane, the graveyard plane, should be a green. Maybe let's make it a slightly different green. Then our grasses, can make it maybe a little darker, something like that. I think should look pretty good. Okay. And then we want our gravestones to have a grave color. So we'll create a new material for that. And we can make it just kind of like a gravestone granite gray or something. Maybe for this one we want to increase the roughness a bit. Okay. For this color, roughness should also be pretty high. Something like that. And then we can go back to our grass. Maybe for this we want to make the roughness a little lower for all the grass things. So maybe we'll set it to like 0.3 just to add kind of a little bit of shine to them, so that they reflect the light a bit better. Okay, now let's go back to the plane of our graveyard, and we're going to create a particle system. So we'll hit this plus. Okay, if it loads, there we go. We want to set to emitter, and particle systems, the way that they work is that they typically want you to be used during an animation, or they're kind of built to be used during an animation if you want. So they have this frame start and frame end feature, but we're just making a model, we're not making an animation, so we want to set them both to 0. It's really lagging. I'm not quite sure why. Hello? Okay. Then we want to come down to, I believe it's render, and instead of rendering as a halo, right now there should be particles somewhere. I don't quite see them, but I think they'll appear once we do something here. We'll change this to object. Give it a sec to load. Change our instance object to be our grass. Okay, and now we can see what happens if we scale it up. Maybe we'll set it to like 0.5 just to see. Where is this grass? Okay, it is here. It's still a little low, but it's spawning in. We're probably going to want more than 1,000 blades of grass because you can see there's still not a ton. Okay, so I think the grass height's actually pretty good, but you can see it's clipping underneath the plane, right? And we don't want that. We want it to be kind of in line with the plane. And so what we can do to fix that, I think, is we go to velocity, and we set normal instead of 1. I think it's to 0. Maybe did that make it lower? Let's move them up. I think that is moving it up. Let's maybe set it to like 5 or so. I think the scale of everything here is massive. I never set the scale. Yeah, so you can see, okay, now this is going up. Maybe we'll set it to like 10 or so. It's okay if it clips a little bit underneath, but we just want most of the grass to be showing. Okay, yeah, I think that's pretty good. You can see that there's still like kind of the bottom of these grass, but that's fine. Now we want to add some randomness to our rotation. So we'll hit the little checkbox on the rotation. Scroll down. And we want to, we don't want to randomize here because that would change in every direction. You can see that they're pointed to the side now. We want it to be global Z, so they should be pointed all straight up and down. Maybe? Okay, maybe it's one of the different globals. Okay, global Y, I guess. Make sure they're not upside down. They're not. Okay, and now we want to randomize our orientation with respect to that global y-axis, which is kind of like rotation in the Z direction. Whoa. Whoa. What happened there? Why is it... Huh? Is it spawning multiple pieces of grass in the same location? I'm not sure why that's happening. What if we randomize phase? Does that help? No, it seems to have the same issue. I think we are spawning multiple pieces of grass in each of these locations, which I don't want. Maybe that's what's causing all this lag. Huh. Because you can see there's definitely not 1,000 pieces of grass on this plane. At least I don't think there is. What happens if we change the seed? We have one piece of grass? What is happening? Why is it not... I'm very confused. Let's reduce this to like 20 just for the time being, just because I don't want it to destroy my computer. But I don't know why these pieces of grass are not spawning. Like I can spot one here. This looks like grass. There seems to be, I don't know if this just might be the holes. That's probably a piece of grass right up here. No. That doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem to be randomizing their position on this plane very well. I wonder if that's because of the holes we created with this. So let's save this first. I'm a bit scared that it's all gonna crash. Set this as graveyard. And I'm pretty sure we're kind of over the 20 minutes that I've allotted, but I just wanted to see if I can get this to work. If not, it is what it is. If we set this to like 2,000, is it gonna populate better? I mean, you can see there's some population, but it certainly doesn't feel like it's 2,000 pieces of grass. I mean, maybe I'm crazy, but I feel like it's spawning a lot of these pieces in exactly the same location. Like each of these grasses is... Huh. Oh, I mean, quite the conundrum here. I'm not quite sure why this is happening. What if we set the seed to just something random? If we up it to 100. Is there any chance it's just one of the seeds being weird? No, it seems to be the same thing where it's just creating... I mean, let's count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Maybe there's a 10th somewhere. 10 here. A couple more up here. It's like creating them along... Like, why is it creating them here? What the heck, man? I'm not sure what's happening. And I am out of time. So I'll try and figure it out, I guess, in the future. But for now, I think I'm just going to get rid of this particle setting. Or get rid of that system. And for this piece of grass, let's just hide it. So we don't have it. I think that's fine. We still have a general gist. We have the graves. We have the trees. I think it still looks good. Could look better, but it is what it is. Let's now set up our camera. So right now our camera is positioned here. We do not want to position there. I hit Shift tilde to go into camera control mode, kind of like first person mode, and I'll scroll up while I'm moving backward to move faster. Okay, you can see that, I guess because of the scale of everything, it seems to struggle to see everything. What if I... Oh, that's a bit worrying. If we come here and render, I guess that's a good test to see, is it actually seeing it, or is it just... Oh my goodness, it is. Okay, that's concerning. Let's click on our camera. Maybe adjust the focal length. No, that doesn't seem to be working. Oh, I think, okay, let's try and... Let's move back over. Hold up, what's happening? Let's get out of here. Where is our... Why is this all hidden? What's going on? Hello? What happened? Let's Control Z till we get it appearing again. Okay. We have everything here. Let's select all of it and size it down. I think that might make it easier to capture. So we can go like this. Hold up. We want the origin to be, I think, here. I suppose it doesn't matter. I'll just size it here. Key X, Shift Y, move it back to the center. Okay. Now I think it should be smaller, so if we go into our camera, maybe now we can capture the entire thing without it, popping out of focus. Sweet. Let's reduce the sensitivity so we can go like this and try and get a kind of a good framing that captures the general gist of all of this. Nice. That should be good. If we go into this mode, we can see what the light looks like. Okay, that light is not what we want it to be. Let's move this up in the sky and maybe towards the camera. And actually, let's change it to maybe a sun. Reduce the strength to 5. Maybe let's do area instead. And increase this back up to like 2,000. Is 2,000 not even that much? 20,000? That's 200,000. 20,000? Why is there like no light coming from this thing? Hello? It also doesn't appear like an area. Like, I know I set this to area mode, but... okay, what if we delete that object and then just create a new light? Create area, GZ. Where is it? I think there's a way of doing it, like Control 3 or Shift 3. There's some way of like moving your camera to this object. Where is it? No, there it is. Oh, it's because this is all out of position. Okay, let's first select this and object mode, GZ, to kind of move it down. Try to get closer to this plane. GY. GX. Just kind of getting it mostly centered. If we look from this side, we can see, okay, we probably want to move it up just a little bit like that. That should be good. Okay, now we can select our light. Kind of come over here, move it up. Okay. And we want to come from the side where our camera is. We're going to have to move our camera again. Let's move down, kind of do this swooping action. I'm not sure why the camera is so large now. If we go to F12, is it? Okay, that's good. We still need the light, but that's what we wanted. Okay, take this, move it in the Y direction, our light. I want to angle our light towards the, kind of towards the center. Change the power to maybe 2,000. Okay, that might be a little bright. Let's change it to like 1,500, maybe even less, 1,000. Maybe if we move it up in the Z direction, we can create kind of just a less intense pattern, I suppose. Okay, X. Okay. The idea is I kind of want to get the shadows to appear going, yeah, left for this and right for that. Okay, I think that looks pretty good. So we have our graveyard, we have our trees, everything looks in an array pattern. Pretty happy with that. I wonder what the deal is with the grass. Hopefully we'll be able to figure that out. But for now, thanks for watching. Hope you liked it. See you next time. Peace.